go ahead and convene the meeting. This is the Cape Cod Regional Government Assembly of Delegates. It's Wednesday, August 5th, 2020 at 4 o'clock. This meeting is held through remote participation by the Assembly of Delegates to Massachusetts Governor Charles D. Baker's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law on March 12th, 2020. The meeting will be live streamed on YouTube. Anyone who wishes to make a comment can do so by calling 1-929-205-6099 and using the ID 996-7625-6854 or by Zoom meeting. And we do have people who tried to make comments at the last meeting, and because I was not aware they wanted to make comments and there was really no way of recognizing them, we missed a couple of public participation. So with this meeting, the clerk has sent the people who contacted us the Zoom link, and they can give public comment during the comment period through that. Or if you have called in and you're on the telephone, you can do *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute. And I'll mention that again during the public comment. I cannot unmute people who want to speak if they've muted themselves. So if you're on the phone, *9 to be recognized and *6 to unmute. And hopefully that'll cover our bases. It's very distressing to have public who want to comment, and there's no way to accommodate that. So we're trying to fix that. I would like to start with a moment of silence to honor our troops who died in service to our country and all those serving our country in the armed forces. Thank you. It's time for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Douglas Brown.
Brown here.
Mary Chapey.
Here.
Terry Gallagher.
Here.
Willie Ann Green.
Here.
Elizabeth Harder.
Elizabeth?
Here. Can you not hear me?
We didn't hear you the first time.
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Christopher Kanega. James Killian.
He's here. Raised hand.
Suzanne McAuliffe.
Here.
Deborah McCutcheon. Thomas O'Hara. John Oman.
Here.
Brian O'Malley.
Here.
Randy Potash. Patrick Princey.
Here.
Linda Zern.
Here.
Madam Speaker, you have a quorum with 87.01% of the delegates present. 12.99% are absent.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve the calendar of business.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second with Harder or O'Malley. Any discussion? All right. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Douglas Brown.
Yes. All right.
Calendar, yeah.
Mary Chapey.
Yes.
Terry Gallagher.
Yes.
Willie Ann Green.
Yes.
Elizabeth Harder.
Yes.
Christopher Kanega. James Killian. Suzanne McAuliffe.
Yes.
Deborah McCutcheon. Thomas O'Hara. John Oman.
Yes.
Brian O'Malley.
Yes.
Randy Potash. Patrick Princey.
Here.
Linda Zern.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, the business calendar passes with 87.01% of the delegates voting yes. 12.99% are absent.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the journal of July 15th, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
And a second. Okay. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Douglas Brown.
Yes.
Mary Chapey.
Yes.
Terrence Gallagher.
Yes.
Yep, sorry. Lillian Green,
Yes.
Elizabeth Harder,
Yes.
James Killian,
Yes.
Suzanne McAuliffe,
Yes.
John Omen,
Yes.
Ryan O'Malley,
Yes.
Patrick Princey,
Yes.
Linda Zern.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, the journal passes with 87.01% of the delegates voting yes, 12.99% are absent.
Thank you. Next is the communications and updates from Board of Regional Commissioners and County Administrator. We have Ron Bergstrom. There he is. Hi, Ron.
Hi. Okay, we've had two meetings since I last talked to you on the 15th. We did not meet on the 29th. So I'll start with the meeting of the 22nd. We had our normal update from Sean O'Brien of the Health Department on the COVID-19 epidemic. Things are looking optimistic down here in Barnstable County as far as the number of cases and hospitalizations. You may have heard or read about an outbreak of cases among the restaurant workers here in Chatham, and also, I understand, lifeguards in Falmouth. We didn't discuss that on the 22nd, but beside that, it sounds good. We're way ahead of the state as far as the number of cases. I don't think there's there's 2 or 3 people in the hospital, no one in ICU. Okay, we then had a request for emergency funding on the state revolving fund, site capping and related stormwater improvements at the Barnstable County Fire and Rescue Training Academy site. So we had we had to throw some more money at that. We had a letter of support from municipal chief executive officers requesting more funding in fiscal year 2021 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to support local health departments, and we certainly agreed to that. We had a discussion regarding signage at the Route 6 rest area. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the concessionaire wanted a sign on the highway saying that there was food available. And apparently you have to go through Mass Highway to do that. They go through a contractor who puts up all the signs, and that contractor was going to charge $6,000, which we thought was quite a bit of money. And considering that the sign will stay there regardless of who gets the food contract, we decided that the county would kick in the money to put that sign up. So there'll be a sign up indicating that there's food available ahead with the food truck. We discussed the Assembly of Delegates actions on proposed ordinance 20-0 in 2014. These are the ordinance regarding the solar leases located at various county-owned properties. So we put that to bed, at least for the immediate future. But then we had a discussion regarding the renewal of the employment contract with Jack Eunice County Administrator. If you go into the previous employment agreement, we were obligated to give the administrator a heads up whether we would renew his contract within 6 months of the expiration of the current contract, which expires in February. The alternative would be to take no action, in which case the contract would be extended for a year, which would go to February 2022. There was some brief discussion, but at the end, the board decided to allow, to take no action and to allow the contract to continue on to 2022. I'll let Jack speak to this himself, but he gave us some indication that when the new board is sworn in on January 1st, he'll have discussions with them as to what they plan to do. And of course, it's also up to Jack what he plans to do. So it's not written in stone that he will be here. I hope he's be here for a while, but we took no action. And so he can stay as county administrator without any further action until February of 2022. Okay, other than that, we filled a vacancy for a grant-funded operating physician at the Massachusetts Alternative Septic System Test Center. We and a couple of housekeeping items. I don't know if you know, the household hazardous waste collection for this month is this Saturday. I remember that because I missed the last one. Don't miss this one. If you have gasoline or oil or anything you have to get rid of, it will be at least here in Harwich, it will be on this Saturday. So that's an opportunity for everyone to get, scour their shed and their barn and see what they can get rid of. We changed the contract with the property that's leased to the cooperative extension, added an additional year and basically just a couple of housekeeping articles. And then of course, we had septic benefits, septic betterments. That concludes the meeting of the 22nd. So that brings us to this morning. We once again had an update on the COVID-19. Once again, an optimistic update from Sean. A lot of the people who have tested positive, and I questioned him on this, are asymptomatic. So even though we are getting positive tests from people who have been engaged in social activities, let's say, they don't seem to be sick. Good. But they can pass it on to, as Laura would say, can pass it on to others who could become sick, so you have to be careful. You got an update on the county finances. First, we had a discussion on analyzing municipal solid waste disposal and diversion. This is something should be of interest to the towns because, as you know, the tipping fees have increased. Solid waste disposal is going to continue to be a more expensive issue and a more difficult issue. The Cape Cod Commission we threw some money at the Cape Cod Commission. They are going to study the issue. They're going to look at the alternatives, both on-site alternative. By on-site, I mean here on the Cape, also off-Cape alternatives. And they're going to look into possible funding streams. As you know, we've talked about one of the possibilities is having a treatment facility at the base, where the towns could send their solid waste to be distributed, basically to take the recyclables out and to deal with the rest. So that's something we should continue to be concerned with because it is a big issue, and the county is going to do whatever it can, as I discussed, to some of the financial responsibilities of the towns as we go forward, especially in this situation now. Okay, we had an update on county finances. The Registry of Deeds income was way above what it was last year. I think and I don't know if Elizabeth is there, but I think it's either $600,000 and $900,000 in the black. So we had a very good month. Dale Murphy said that perhaps some of that was delayed from May when we did not have a good month, but we're going to Elizabeth did not have the numbers for the last fiscal year ending June 31st, but we expect to be quite a ways in the black, and we're certainly starting off the new fiscal year with a healthy balance. The housing market seems to be very strong. I don't know why that is. You can't buy a house in Chatham anymore unless you're quite well heeled. So it's good for us, but it's not necessarily good for everybody else. Okay, we discussed the status of the program year 2021 for AmeriCorps, and because of housing issues and the COVID, we're reducing the number of AmeriCorps volunteers to 18 from 24. As you know, if some of you have been around, it was originally 32, reduced to 24, and now it's down to 18. But this is the third year of our contract, and I'm hoping that when we get through this, we can increase the number of AmeriCorps volunteers. There's housing available in Chatham, Barnstable. We have to do some work in Wellfleet, and I think there's a house somewhere on the Upper Cape which needs some repair. So we're trying to get away from the dormitory style housing for the AmeriCorps volunteers and be able to spread them out so we won't have the problems that we came up with last year when one person in a house would test positive and they all had to be quarantined. Okay. We had a discussion on updates to Barnstable County personnel policies. And what this is we're going to give our employees a full paid day if they work at the polls in their individual towns. I don't know if you know that the towns are having trouble getting poll workers. A lot of the poll workers, especially in my town, are elderly. They're reluctant to be in a situation where they're meeting with a lot of people. And so we are providing a compensation to the county employees for poll work on election days. There was some discussion whether this would be a continuing policy every year, but at this point, we are simply saying election days, which could include election days in 2024 and so on, but that could be amended as we go further. We got quite a bit. I'm not going to go through everything under commissioners' actions. We are going to hire the Barnstable County Human Rights Advisory Commission is going to hire a part-time person, 5 hours a week, to help out the director of that agency. We also authorized the creation of a full-time food access coordinator. As you know, I don't know if you read the stories, but there was food given out from the federal government provided some, and it was distributed here on the Cape. I think it was in Mashpee, and the line to accept that food was about 2 or 3 miles long, which is a surprise of everybody. So apparently that's an issue. It's not brought out, but there are a lot of people, even though some of us can weather this, there are some who are in dire need. And there are many, many nonprofit agencies and other organizations that are willing to be part of distributing food to the various towns on the Cape. What they need is some organization and some direction. And so we are authorizing an 18-month position, which will be advertised probably today or tomorrow because we got the vote. I don't, unless it has to come to you. Maybe it has to come to you first, I think. But if it's passed, it will be advertised right away, and that will be for approximately $65,000, and to basically coordinate the various food distribution organizations throughout the Cape and see that food gets to the people who need it, and also go out to farmers and to Buy Fresh, Buy Local, and to the federal and state governments who have, a part to this, important part to this. Other than that, we received a bunch of money for the homeless. We had previously received a grant, and this is something that should get out there to the public, of nearly $600,000, $595,000 to fund the homeless youth program for a period through June 30th, 2021. And now we are adding $362,000 of funding to increase the maximum obligation of the contract amount. So Beth Albert has done some terrific work on that, reaching out to homeless youth here on the Cape. I think she mentioned the number of 130,000 individuals have been contacted by this program. Some of that money went to HAC, went to Housing Assistance Corporation as a subcontractor, $119,000. Children's Cove got an additional $75,000. The Cape Cod Commission received an award from the United States Economic Development Administration to the Cape Cod Commission in the amount of $400,000 to fund COVID-19 pandemic recovery and resilience, consistent with the region's comprehensive economic development strategy. That's the SEDS, for a period of July 1st to June 30th. So they're going to be reaching out to businesses, reaching out to state and federal and local governments to see what we can do to keep businesses afloat while we go through this pandemic. And that is about it, except for a few minor contracts.
Excellent. I wanted to make a comment on the food coordinator. I know years ago when the food pantries on the towns started popping up more frequently, it's almost like every town there or church or group had food pantries, and one of the big problems was coordinating and getting facilities organized, because you can get help from the Boston Food Pantry if you have certain basic criteria. So it was a challenge getting the food banks together. So I think this is something that the county really can help with, because you have a lot of really homegrown help out there. And it will be nice to be able to pull together in a networked fashion so that we can take advantage of anything that's out there, but also alleviate the issues that people have had trying to get their food and and also maybe pool resources as well. So I think that's an excellent opportunity for the county to be helpful. Yes, Delegate O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I certainly want to ditto your comments strongly. I've also been in a position to be aware of the extent of the need. I'm on the Kelly board, as you are, and we have these groups coming to us constantly telling us that year after year their numbers are going up by 10%. I think the extent of the issue is really very large, and it has frustrated me that we've left it entirely to the not-for-profit sector. And so I'm really heartened to see that we're able to step in and play a coordinating role. I think it's a great thing to do. I also have a couple just other comments. I would like to ask Ron about the question of support for local health departments. Is that, what exactly are we already helping them? You mentioned some sort of state money. Can you speak more about that, Ron?
Well, as you know, in the past, we were going to do, we had appointed some staff members or temporary staff members to assist the local health departments. But to be honest with you, I'm going to have to turn this over to Jack. And he's going to give you more details because he's been the one who's been administrating this program. Jack, are you there?
Yes, sir. What it is, Doc, is the health agents actually came to us, and we joined with them in proposing a letter to send to the state, because the health service department, not just here in Barnstable County, but across the state, really been underfunded for a long time. And this is a hope, and we're getting it already from Sarah and Julian in particular. This is our hope that the legislature will start to look more realistically on the needs that health departments face, especially at times like this. Gathering protective gear, vaccinations, which are going to be very important this fall. All these kind of things need to be funded, and it's really beyond, not only does it need to be funded, it needs to be accessed. Testing is still an issue here on the Cape. So the health departments wanted to get together and send a message to Boston, and that's what this was about.
Great, thank you very much. And if I could, just one more comment. Speaking on behalf of the Human Rights Advisory Commission, I'm very grateful to the commissioners for funding that 5-hour-a-week position. I know from Susan Quinones' conversations that there's an awful lot of sort of minor work that she winds up having to do, just making sort of little lists and follow-up things. And having a staffer to do some of that minor stuff off her plate, I think will be real helpful. Clearly, the commission has faced a tremendous increase in what it's seeing and what it's dealing with in the wake of the events of the last few months. So it's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, Elizabeth, Delegate Harder.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I watched today's commissioners meeting, and the waste management presentation was fabulous. Is that coming to us?
Yes.
The speaker has asked me to alert them that she would like them to present to you, I think, in your next meeting this month.
Right.
The 19th.
Great.
So you'll be coming to do that same presentation. And the county took the lead on this because it couldn't wait any longer. It's a long process. We felt we had to start to get ahead of the contracts to get them coming down the pipe. Remember, we're talking about billions and millions of dollars that we have to look at. Maybe we can help ameliorate that rapid increase in time. It's already gone up almost $3 million in the last 4 years. So,
yeah, Harwich got hammered. Our price almost doubled this year with no warning. So I think it's great that the county is going to try to help with this.
What the committee did with Patty Daly and Carrie and Michelle is they spent a year working with the towns. This didn't come out of the blue. They really put the legwork in, so everybody's on board. Yarmouth is addressing the biodigestive issues, which will help us with food waste and septic disposal. And Bourne is helping us look at sites for a potential center for Cape Cod. So it's a great start, and I couldn't thank the commissioners enough for their aggressive support today.
It's on the list. I have a list. I'm trying to get as much in as I can. Today is a very short meeting, as everyone is aware, because we have postponed the recall twice, and I wanted to make sure that we at least did the legwork on that and then could get on with our other work. Is there anyone else who had a question? Yes, Delegate Green.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the report, Mr. Bergstrom. I wanted to ask about the emergency services for the county if there's a storm. I mean, we were lucky with this yesterday, but I know that there have been some concerns about using traditional facilities given the COVID situation. Can you update us as to what would happen if the storm in the future is more devastating than what we had yesterday?
I have to pass this off to Jack, because he and Sean have been on the phone in the last few days discussing the potential of bringing in the emergency system. So, Jack, what have you come up with?
Sean talked a little bit about it today, Louis, Assemblywoman Green, in his report, in the need the county has to have quick turnaround tests. We don't have access to those right now. These are the tests where we can test everybody that comes into a shelter on their arrival, and we'll have results in 90 minutes. So he's working now with a private company, and again, our delegates to try to get those out to Cape Cod as quickly as possible. You're 100% right. We'd have a problem. Red Cross gets to the site 56 beds for us last night in hotel rooms if it became necessary. Fortunately, it didn't. But aside from that, because you've got to segregate, you have to quarantine people, especially but the bulk of our customers in shelters nowadays are elderly, and they have medical needs, and that's why they come. So we have to be prepared for that. And one of the ways we can do this is quick turnaround tests.
Okay.
Thank you. I have one other question.
Yes.
So as far as I understand, I had a conversation today with one of our select board members in Wellfleet, and we were talking among a list of topics about COVID testing for restaurant workers specifically, because I understand it's not just Chatham that's experiencing problems at this point. And is the county involved with testing workers on the Lower Cape or in the Outer Cape? And could you update us as to the situation?
Once again, I'm going to turn this over to Jack, but yeah, we've had to, even here in Harwich, the county, along with, I think, the Cape Cod Healthcare or Outer Cape, has put up a testing center for hospitality workers and so on. But Jack, do you know the whole background to this?
Yes. Yesterday we had our emergency response unit. Once again was in Harwich, but they were testing. I think they had close to 100 people from Wellfleet because of an occurrence that happened down there. We'll have those results by Friday. There were 162 people tested yesterday in Harwich. They were primarily from Dennis, Brewster, Harwich, and Wellfleet, and some Eastern. So.
And is there anything that we're doing as far as contact tracing? I mean, if somebody comes into a restaurant, are we taking contact information? And if something happens, letting people know? Or is there anything of that nature going on?
Most of the towns are using the VNA to do the contract tracing, but they are doing it. They are doing it.
So people that come into restaurants and other facilities, people are providing information, contact information, is that correct?
Most people cooperate, some don't. But generally speaking, if somebody tests positive, the VNA is notified and they initiate contact immediately. They try to figure out the contacts that the positive person has had.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else with a question for yes, Delegate Killian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, Commissioner Bergstrom. On your comment regarding the poll workers from the county, do you have a number of workers that may be available and how you plan on allocating them? Is it going to be first come, first serve?
Well, I think that that's going to depend on contact with the individual town clerks and also the town clerk of Barnstable to determine the need and the availability of the people. Have to be willing to do this. Obviously, we're not saying we're going to assign them to the poll. So there's going to be some communications between now and then as to the need and also the availability of county employees who are willing to do this. Jack, do you have anything to add to that, or?
No, you're 100% right, Mr. Chairman. A letter will go out tomorrow to every employee in the county and let them know there's new policy. Invite them to participate if they feel comfortable enough to do so. It's certainly not mandatory, it's strictly voluntary because there is risk to it. We know that coming in, but I can assure you that based on my conversation with Ann Quirk, who's the chairperson of the Regional Clerks Association here on Cape Cod, that the need is obvious, and they're very grateful that we're taking a chance of doing this. We'll see how many we get. I can't say for sure, Jim, whether it'll be a few or a couple dozen. We're hoping our employees feel healthy enough and confident enough can participate, because otherwise we're going to have a problem.
So we're still in the exploratory phase then?
No, it's passed and we're going. We're sending out the letters tomorrow. And
Okay, but again, we just don't know how many we needed and how many are going to volunteer.
yeah, we don't know how many will volunteer and then how many the Clerks Association will actually need. But Ian would take our list and distribute it among the towns and see what they need.
And just one quick question for you, Jack, on that report you sent out for July regarding the virus. And again, I want to thank you for throwing some shade on the youth of the Cape, because they have been taking a beating that's kind of undeserved. But you did mention about the matter of the uptick of it being a serious concern. And I spent a lot of time kind of refuting a lot of the reports out there that tend to overstate the issues. And I think currently 2 people in the hospital right now, Cape-wide, out of over 200,000. It's a pretty small number. And I hear comments from people that the hospitals are filling back up. I mean, how would you characterize the situation right now? Is it pretty much stable? I mean, compared to where our numbers were in the past?
I think given the fact that we're a tourist destination and people come here from everywhere, given the fact that our population has doubled since July 4th, the numbers we're seeing are really good. And given the fact that, Jim, honestly, we have received no negative reports from the public about the way our establishments are operating. Everybody in those restaurants and hairdressers and everybody seems to be playing by the rules. So that's why our numbers are low. Generally speaking, except on the beaches, people are playing by the rules. We just got to keep our fingers crossed. This is a big test today. Yesterday, 152 people being tested because of known contacts. That could turn the numbers negative overnight. But generally speaking, Cape Cod has done a great job.
That has been my impression. And some of this comes in the context of whether the schools are going to open or not. People have concern that we're not going to see real numbers from the tourists until later in the summer. And I just don't understand the logic behind that. I would think they would kind of follow along with the folks that were here and we would see a steady increase, but we really haven't, especially in the hospitalizations. They've been very, very low, which is, in my opinion, kind of really the nuts and bolts of the problem. If people aren't going to the hospital, then it's not all that of a huge concern. Certainly like it was months ago.
Can't argue with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Delegate Harder.
I had just wanted to say that, I mean, I'm only dining outside, but either when you, to speak to Lily Ann's questions, either they take your name and number to make a reservation so they can track you that way. And if you do a walk-in, which I've done twice, they take your name and number before they seat you. So they do have a way to do the contact tracing if you've been to a restaurant. So I just wanted to let Lillian know that.
Can I add to that, Chairman?
Yes.
I talked to someone a worker from the Squire here in Chatham, and they said that their business, with the exception of the bar business and alcohol, they're doing very well. And the few places, now that we have outside seating, we tend to go by other places that you can see that they are doing a lively business. So, a month or so ago, we're saying, well, if we open, if we open up, will they come? And indeed they have, so it's not a question of people saying, well, I'm not going to go, even though we've opened up to outside dining and to social distancing. We've actually seen an improvement. All the word that I'm getting is that considering the circumstances, the hospitality industry is doing, surprisingly well. And hopefully that'll continue. And to address Delegate Killian's comments, yeah, we would have expected, once July 4th hit, got a 14-day incubation period in this disease, or so they say, that we would now be seeing, with the increase in population, we would be seeing an increase in the number of positive cases. And we're not seeing that, and it is August already. Now, a knock on wood, hopefully that'll continue, but we're not going to get the kind of spike that we were afraid of when we looked at going into the high season. Plus, as I said earlier, a lot of the people who've been diagnosed are not really sick, so I don't know if that's, what the situation is there. Perhaps there's more people who have COVID than we know about, but the hospitalizations are down. I don't think there's anybody in the ICU, so we're doing fairly well. We're doing better than the rest of Massachusetts. So hopefully that'll continue.
As a point of confidence in support of Ron, the Real Estate Association is reporting to us that September and October long-term bookings have never been this good. And it's continuing at a rapid pace. So there's a lot of confidence in the market that we're going to have a long summer on Cape Cod, a long, healthy summer. So that's good for us all to hear. Maybe some of those restaurants can survive.
Any other questions?
Yes, please.
Yes, Delegate Brown.
Yes, for Mr. Bergstrom, at the end of his presentation, my computer was freezing. He mentioned 400,000, and I think that was for COVID relief for business. Is that?
That was
that right?
the SEDS
That
program.
was through the Cape Cod Commission.
That was given to the Cape Cod Commission under the auspices of the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. Was something they've been working on for years through the state, and it's coming from the Economic Development, United States Economic Development Administration. I questioned the executive director on this, what exactly they were going to do, and they, as I said earlier, basically going to look and see what obstacles the business community is facing here. They were going to see what resources are available, state and federal resources are available. They're going to do surveys as to what parts of the industry here, the tourist industry, the real estate industry need the most help. And I imagine there's going to be a lot of really small shops, and outlets and retail outlets that are hurting. So basically, it's once again a good pot of money that we've been able to leverage from the federal government, and hopefully it'll go to a good. It'll result in some good policy decisions, and either directly to us and to you as to actions to take, or directly to the businesses to give them an idea of where they can go to try to mitigate the problems that they're having. So,
thank you.
Seeing no other questions, two quick comments. We're not going to talk about the dredge today because we are hiring a new director who I'm hoping will be coming to our next meeting. I think that's what the administrator had indicated, to meet the new director and highly qualified and local knowledge. So it will be a very beneficial to the county. And then the other quick comment was on finances. I think it's great. We have huge real estate boom right now. I think the worry is that the stock will be running out in 2 to 3 months. So that may come to a screeching halt. And in addition, depending on what happens with the rest of the economy, getting into the fall, we need to think long term. And we can address that with the finance director. Yes, things might look great through October, but after October, we've got the rest of our life. So we're going to need to make sure that we're on top of that as well. I know people are. I just want to, I'm very grateful for the positive news now, and I hope that will carry us through some of the harder times that might be coming.
Okay, Madam Speaker, can I
Yes.
just add to that? Yeah, there was a current theme in the last couple of meetings that we've had, and the theme is that we are not experienced the shortfall that the various towns are experiencing. Right, so the county's been lucky so far. And so some of the services we're providing and some of the grants go to trying to relieve the individual towns of some of their financial responsibility. The obvious point, in fact, would be the solid waste treatment plant, which would save them a lot of money. So we're looking for ways to try to help the county, to help towns get through this the fiscal, what is could be a very strong fiscal crisis. And I'm hoping, and we'll continue to do that. And I'm hoping that even the members of the assembly, if you can come up with some good ideas, the services the county can provide while we're in good fiscal, so we help the towns, because we don't know, we could be in trouble, they could be in trouble also, and we're all in this together. So.
Great, thank you. Yes, Delegate Brown, you had your hand up?
Mr. Bergstrom, are you looking for ideas now for that?
Well, don't have to be today, but yeah, no, you can, whatever you want.
Well, Falmouth, our EDIC in Falmouth was trying to create a loan program targeting around $2 million for local Falmouth business. Yeah. They're finding out that they're at their limits of their capabilities legally, and they're going to have to probably get special legislation to approve them to manage a fund like that. And even though they'd be working through local lenders, they still want to be the proprietor of it. And I'm wondering if the county has any kind of any way to assist in that endeavor, or another program similar to that might be already in place that I'm not aware of.
Well, I can only speak off the top of my head, but I think that would be part of the responsibility of the commission when they look into the opportunities that are available for small business. They can look into any grant programs that might be available to fund that kind of small business loans and so on. So I'll pass that on to Christy if she's not on the meeting now.
Yeah, the banks have really tightened up. They're not giving out small business loans because either people aren't doing well, or they might have a burst of good things are just too unstable. So that is a very important point. I think that the small businesses are being shut out of the banks to a great degree.
Well, the banks are basically forgiving or foregoing some payments now. Hopefully we don't know how long.
I'm talking about new loans. I'm talking about generating new loans that aren't part of a federal program. Right. So if someone wanted to start a business, it would be challenging. Okay. The next item would be communications from public officials. Seeing none, the next item is communications from members of the public. So we do have at least one member of the public who had wanted to speak at the last meeting and did not, we couldn't communicate, so I did not know. So this will be part of something that's not on the agenda typically, but just a general communication from the public to the assembly. Muska?
Yes, am I unmuted? I'm sorry, I'm just making sure.
No, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So good evening, everybody. My name's Muska Yosef, and I'm a resident of Yarmouth, and this is the first time I'm speaking before this assembly, so I just wanted to start by thanking you for giving me this opportunity to make this public comment. I understand that there was a little bit of a technological issue last time, so I'm glad we figured that out. So first, I actually just have a few questions regarding the recall provision because I'm still very confused, and I want to apologize because I did try to find the answers to this on the county website and I wasn't able to. So I'm hoping that I can potentially get some answers right now. And I guess my first question, yes.
Public comment is not an exchange. Public comment is when you make your comments. There are other we certainly can talk to you privately if you like, or there will be other opportunities because when the issue comes before the assembly, there will be a public hearing.
Yes.
So that would also be another opportunity. But
okay, well then I'll say
if you would just give us your comments.
Yeah, well, I'll give you two comments then. I guess the first comment then, since I'm not able to ask questions right here, is that I want to start by saying that I am somewhat disappointed by the county website. I don't think that it's very easy to navigate. I am an attorney. I consider myself someone who's fairly well educated, and I do not think that you guys as a board and assembly have done what you need to do to make the public educated about not just the recall provision, but also other matters that are important to the local community. I am speaking for a group of people who have reached out to some of you and never heard back. And I was luckily enough, Suzanne, that I reached out to you and you instantly got back to me. I understand that for many of you guys, you have many other obligations. This might be a part-time job, but I do think there is no excuse for not responding to an email for weeks on end. So that's my first comment. My second comment is that I'm still somewhat confused about what role this body plays in terms of amending or discussing the recall provision. I think this is a very, very important issue. And once again, I think you guys play a dual role. Obviously, you have a representative role, you represent your town, but you also are educators, and you need to educate people about this issue better. And I know you have the website, you post the minutes, you post the agenda, but it is not intuitive. And I find that, that more can be done to educate, especially the young professionals that really are eager to learn. With regard to the recall provision, since I'm not allowed to ask questions here and there can't be a back and forth, I will say that I obviously strongly support the recall provision. I hope you guys vote for it. I'm not entirely sure why it was taken out. Obviously on other levels of government, there is an impeachment process whereby the public can take someone out of office if they do something during their term, whether they speak inappropriately, whether they do something illegal, any kind of malfeasance. There's no reason why a similar process should not be instituted on the local level. I have no idea when this issue is actually going to be discussed before you. This is only the second meeting that I've been to, so I apologize for my ignorance, but it seems as though this is not an issue that's getting enough attention, that it's an issue that is discussed at the very tail end of the meeting. And I hope that at some point there can be a full meeting where the recall provision is discussed at the beginning of the meeting, that people from the public can come, and that some of you out there start actually reading and opening your emails and responding to the public who have serious questions about this.
Thank you. I did offer to talk to you. I asked you to send me your phone number so I could call you. And I'm happy to answer the questions if you want to send me your phone number. We did exchange several emails, and it is a very, very complex process. And it's something that the Assembly has been wrangling with for years.
Right.
So it's not just a new topic. But if you want to send me your phone number, I'm happy to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely. And I do want to commend you because you have been on top of it and amazing. And I really respect and appreciate you for doing that. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for everybody else on the Assembly.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
And as public officials, we need to know what's working, what's not working. Thank you.
Could I just ask a question about the email chain, how it works? Is that possible?
Well, you can, yeah. I mean, you can ask it of the clerk. She would have that information.
And I'm just wondering, is there one general email address that we would all receive a copy of that? Like in Falmouth, our select board, if you email to selectboard@falmouthma.gov, all 5 of us get it, including the town managers. I'm wondering if the Assembly has a similar arrangement, or do we get individual emails?
Typically, it's individual unless someone specifies to the Assembly.
Okay.
So, and I'm very careful about, making sure that I think that, information that is important to the Assembly. I heard from 2 people, and I believe Delegate Harder heard from someone else as well. And that's why we made the opportunity to give them information to actually come in on the meeting, because the phone system as a public comment wasn't working, and I did not distribute individual emails. I had probably fairly lengthy communication with two individuals, and it really is essentially information gathering. So if you want, I can include everybody on those emails. If that, you can let me know if that's your preference, or we can just keep it as kind of a speaker information or an individual information. A lot of people reach out as individuals to the town representatives, and sometimes you don't need to share that with the whole Assembly, but typically, unlike Falmouth, it can go to individual Assembly members unless it's directed to the entire Assembly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes, Delegate Harder.
The only thing I'll say to that is, Doug, sorry, Delegate Brown, if I got an email from one of my constituents that I didn't see for about a week and a half because it had gone to, you know how we have focused and other, and for some reason it had gone to other, not focused. So every now and then check the other mailbox in your assembly Gmail, so that you don't miss things like I did. So.
Okay, and this charter review that is now covering the recall is complicated. And we have probably further complicated it this year as well by making the entire assembly the charter review committee, which confuses people tremendously. So what's happening now is this meeting will adjourn. The charter review committee will then assemble, convene. We have been trying for 2 meetings now to do right by the recall provision. We had a subcommittee that worked on this, worked very hard, presented a draft. We had a delegate redline or change the draft in response to some of the assembly comments. So now what's going to happen is when we convene as the charter review, that is, even though it's the whole assembly, it's a subcommittee or a working committee. That committee will discuss and decide if they want to make a recommendation to the full assembly. This is what's confusing. Then that recommendation will come to the full assembly. If there's action to be taken, typically it's done in the way of an amendment or an ordinance, and then that requires a public hearing. So it's not just the charter review committee that's doing the work. It's going to be that committee making a recommendation to the assembly. The assembly will then discuss it. And then if it's something that the assembly wants to go forward with, there will probably be an ordinance and a public hearing. So this is just, we're in the sausage making part of this. So there will be, I think, more public opportunities when the recall comes before the assembly officially. The confusion is the full assembly is the charter review committee this time, and it isn't this way every time. We just did it to be more efficient, and I'm not sure that it didn't just confuse people. It confused us. So we're trying to keep on top of it. I'll take a motion to adjourn the assembly meeting.
So moved.
Okay, we're adjourned. Now, Ian, we're going to keep the live stream